Hi, everybody. This is Marilyn. Do we have any audio today? I'm hoping maybe we do. Great. Thank you, Lou. Hello, everybody. This is Marilyn, and it's time for the noon edition of Welcome to My World. This is the 11th of April, and it is a Monday. So, happy Monday, everybody. Mondays have been fairly good trading. I don't know, for the last 2 or 3 or 4 Mondays for some. Anyway, I haven't been able to trade this morning, but hopefully tomorrow things will get down to a dull roar for me. But there are really some interesting things that I see. One thing I want to, before I forget again, I want to thank all the people, especially in the early morning. There's a group of guys that are really helping each other. They're posting their trades and getting feedback and uh, posting the good and the bad and the ugly and having a really good trading session. So if you come into the room a little bit later, you might want to scroll back in that, no, I don't know, 7:30-ish, 8 o'clock-ish, and read some of their and pick up some of the screenshots off of their trades, because this is how we all learn from each other off of these screenshots. But it looks like we've had some fairly good bus drivers today. TF, and well, actually all four of the indices were in a real tight little chop, chop, chop for quite a while this morning, and then all of a sudden they tended to take off. TF was the leader of the charge on the downside move. And I mean, it took about an hour and a half trip southbound there. Bonds, I'll show you my bond chart in just a second, because bonds had some really nice, perfect, easy to see trades this morning. And so I'll get to that. It looks like the VIX is right around 15.5, hasn't moved very much. What we have here, I think it's in about a week. OPEC is having a meeting where they're talking about, I mean, I'm not holding my breath, about capping the oil production to get the prices up a little bit. And they seem to think they're going to get some cooperation doing that. At least the Saudi boys do. But I'm not holding my breath on that one. Today, I think it is later this afternoon, Mrs. Yellen has a meeting with the wonderful POTUS and his right-hand guy, Biden, in the White House. And they're going to talk about Wall Street reform. Now, that's an encouraging thing for me. Government did so well with the post office and health care and everything else. I can hardly wait to see what they decide on Wall Street reform. But I would pay attention to that. I'm not sure they're going to be able to get too much reformed, and I certainly hope not, since they know about as much about it as could be written on the head of a pen in capital letters. And the other thing I wanted to mention, we've had a lot of chat lately in our chat room about computers and computer speeds and how much RAM and this and that and the next thing. Daryl is really, really sharp on technology, and he has a great post in the forum on trading computers and what you really need and all kinds of helpful information. When you're learning to trade, a laptop is perfectly suitable. I mean, I think everybody starts on a laptop. But if you have reached the level where you intend to make this your living and you intend to make it a business, part of the equipment that you will need for your business is a trading computer. And I mean, your guy, your technology guy, is clueless. And I don't care how wonderful you think he is in programs and this and that and the next thing. He doesn't know anything when it comes to trading unless he is a high-level trader himself. So Daryl has recommendations on the forum for places where you can learn and you can get information and you can narrow your considerations down. We also have guys in this room who have, and some of the ladies too, who are really sophisticated. I mean, they've built their own computers and built them for a long time. And I think you will find that they all tell you the same thing. For a trading computer, they wouldn't touch it, not with a 10-foot pole. It needs to be a professional job and a professional trading computer. There are way too many things that can go wrong. And it's the old thing, you don't know what you don't know till somebody tells you. So I would definitely take Daryl's advice to heart. And I know I traded on a laptop. I know Lori did. Most of us did. But at some point, you do have to bite the bullet and invest. It's an investment. That's exactly what it is. So this morning, I'll show you a couple things I noticed on these charts this morning. And unfortunately, I wasn't up and running yet, but right here on crude oil had a great trade this morning. Just, let's see, that was right about 8-ish. Let's see here. Right here on the 6 tick, early in the morning, right here at 8 o'clock, my goodness, was this a wonderful trade. It started over here in things on this 12 tick sometimes at this time of day, and that 7:30, 8 o'clock, they're in slow motion. And then all of a sudden, bam, it'll start to move. But if you watch the 6 tick, that's why I have different charts here, because they tell you different things at different times. But right here, the apex made a green E coming off of this big fat buy zone, and this was a big fat buy zone right here, and just never looked back. And if you, I like this alchemy also for a confirmation. Right here, we got the big green check mark and the big wide sells buy zone right here, and it took right off. So there were a number of entries that you could have taken here from off of the 6 tick. If you're more comfortable using the alchemy, it had the bands and the candle changed and the trend R changed, and it came right off of this zone. And if you like the old-fashioned way over here, which at the 8 o'clock time is a little bit slow, but you still had an entry off of the low of last session. The high of this should have been a P bar. I'm not sure why it didn't print this P. This is also, if you notice from the last one over here, it kind of forms a double bottom right there. But this thing took off and just went. So when you ask yourself, okay, that's fine, where's it going? Well, it's going, once it's cleared settlement, the next possibility is maybe the green ice. The next one is maybe the open. And then once it's cleared the high of the day, which is this green dashed line, it's gone past the top of the range channel, and crude oil bus drivers like those range channels. It just kept on going, so you could certainly have squeezed some more ticks out of this. And then it turned around and did it again. And that's that was kind of nice. So if you didn't stay in it through all this, which you probably wouldn't, I certainly wouldn't have. I would have taken my ticks and left. But you have another entry either off this magnet or this E or any number of, this has a sell zone right here, a small one. But anyway, when it goes up like this, and I keep talking about this, where is it going? That's the next thing. Where is it going? It's going up here to probably, once it's cleared the deviation, to the last session high, the next deviation. But look where it ended up, and look at the top of this range channel. It came right up to the top of the, it was about 1 bar late, but that's where it got. So all these things are real helpful, and you just have to develop your eye and what you're comfortable with to see that. The bonds, let me get my ZB over here on the camera. This was just wonderful this morning. Now, Trend Catcher put an entry in right here with an E, and it was at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, that really lets me out. But about the time I would think about this is around 8:30, 9 o'clock. And here we have one of Lori's great touchbacks, almost to the red ice and certainly to the low of last session. Take this touchback for 10 ticks down. Trend Catcher put in another northbound here, came right off of a buy zone, 10 ticks or more northbound. Where did it go? Right to the sell zone, which happened to be a deviation. So all these things work so beautifully together. And then I'll show you one other chart, because this is a good lesson right here. This is what you do not trade, now, later, or ever. When we talk about these bunchy little apexes, this is what we're talking about. Don't ever, 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 ever try to trade this stuff, because I can promise you it will not work out well for you. And Lori talks a lot about the E's with the X's on top of them. Those are, I mean, you talk about caution. So before that, and the number of people early this morning did catch a nice ride on gold, I think, from down here someplace, 7 or 8 or whatever it was. Oh yeah, this touchback right here to the deviation, that was a good one also. Okay, Damien, you did get, the previous one was ZB, it was bonds. I use a 6 tick. Some people like more or less. I like 6. But this gold, I wanted to, especially if you're new and you ever see anything like this on a chart, either find a different market or go do something else and come back later. Because those bunchy little apexes, those things are to be avoided every single time. So I think that's about it today. Tomorrow morning, we didn't have much news today. There's a lot of UK news at 4:30 tomorrow morning. So if you trade one of those Forex pairs with the British pound, that is likely to move tomorrow morning for you very early. And then at what I call the normal time, 8:30, there's only import prices at 8:30 is all we have. But we'll have to see what comes out of this White House meeting with Mrs. Yellen. I'm not too sure if they're going to make any announcements or what. And the other thing, today marks the beginning of earnings season for the last quarter of last year. So if you trade YM, I would spend about 10 or 15 minutes sometime today or tomorrow and look up there's only 30 stocks that are the underlying in the YM. So I would find out what days. Those are huge, big companies. That's why they make up the Dow 30. But when they announce earnings, it is a big deal. And the expectation or the assumption is that some of them may very well not be reporting such wonderful numbers because this drag on crude oil, price of crude oil, has brought a lot of industries down with it. So let's see. I am on, Dan's asking me, am I on V2, Apex V2? I'm on the V2. So if yours is a little different, they're just getting ready to roll that out pretty soon. I don't think it's going to be too much longer, but it is undergoing some final testing. So if my E's are in a little different spot, that's the reason. Okay. So, and I've also been asked about what's the best time to trade crude oil. So I'll tell you, the very best time, are you ready? The very best time is to trade crude oil when the volume and the apex indicators tell you to. That may be, who knows? It's up to the bus driver. But crude oil will frequently put up a nice trade from about 3 o'clock in the morning until maybe 6:30 or 7. If you're in a time zone that you like that, it's slow. But it is the afternoon session or the first half of the European session right in there. And then crude oil can also start up again about 8 o'clock in the morning, our time, and go right on until the pit close at 2:30. And it can continue, although with less volume, up until the 4 o'clock cutoff for electronic trading. And then it can start up again when Japan opens at 6 Eastern time, and it will move very slowly, usually at night, up until Europe opens at 2 o'clock in the morning. So, in other words, I guess what I'm trying to tell you is there is no best time. The best time is when the indicators tell you that you have a trade. Typically, the volume will come in with the European session 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning until 6 or so. Not always, but sometimes. And then about 8 o'clock in the morning until maybe 2:30. Okay. So anyway, I think that's about it. This has been my view from my world in Apex land, brought to you by Apex Investing. I'll see you tomorrow about noon. Thanks.